Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a very, very special broadcast of The Pet Show. You love your dogs and your cats, and you would do anything to help them have a healthy, normal, long life. But how much do you really know about your dog and cat's food? Is everything you read on the label true, including the ingredient list? In fact, in one study recently, it was found that some pet foods advertised as being grain-free, soy-free, corn-free, or wheat-free were found to contain those very ingredients. And you wonder why your dog may still have some allergies. Right, so let me just introduce Joey Herrick. Joey, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. And you're one of the people in the pet industry that I admire. And why do I admire you? Because, well, let me put it politely, you're probably as eccentric as I am when it comes to your passion for animals. Now, as I said, you've been in the pet food industry for over 3 decades, very successful. You could stop now if you wanted to. But what prompted you at this point in your life and your success to create Lucy Pet Products?
You know, I could have never scripted this several years ago because I sold my first pet food company that I had for 25 years. I sold it in 2013. I knew I had to give back because dogs and cats gave me and my family an incredible life. So I took a couple $1 million and I started my Lucy Pet Foundation, and I have a surgical staff and we go around and do free spay and neuters. So I was doing that, and we've done almost 30,000 free spay and neuters. But during that time, I didn't know what to feed my dogs anymore. And I have quite a few dogs, and more than I want to say. And I didn't know what to feed them because I know what's going on in the pet industry. And quite honestly, it just really ticked me off. So I decided to come back into the pet food industry. I got Dr. George C. Fahey and Dr. Angela Thompson, who are the 2 gurus in the industry, to make our new formulas.
Actually, Dr. Fahey's been on the air with me.
Dr. Fahey's been with you. He's a genius. And if I was just starting in the industry, those people wouldn't have talked to me. But I'm not. I've been around a long time, as you said. And so they did the formulas. And so we started making the Lucy Pet formulas. And they were working phenomenally. They're just terrific. But then something I could have never scripted was I was having it made at the Breeders' Choice Pet Food Plant here in Irwindale. And that's actually in 1988 where my first pet food company, they made my first food back in 88. So I was having the food made here, and then all of a sudden I found out they're going to sell the plant. So I told, Rick Rockhill and, a couple of my partners, I said, guys, we have a problem. And the problem is the plant is going to be sold. And what happens if somebody buys the plant and they don't want to make our food? Where do we go? What happens if somebody buys the plant and they won't let us in to see what's being made? We got a problem because the venture capital guys have bought up all the manufacturing plants. So we had no choice but to buy this plant. And we bought the plant, and I really, really love the plant. I'm proud of it.
Well, you brought up a very, very valid point. I've been in the business a little while myself, a couple of weeks at least. And what I've noticed is that when I first started, most of the people I was dealing with that was starting out in the pet industry loved pets. They loved their dog, they loved their cat, they wanted to do this, they wanted to do that. Now what I'm seeing is Wall Street.
Right.
Venture capitalists, nothing wrong. It's good to invest your money wherever you want to invest it. But they're getting into the pet industry based on, I think the pet industry was like a $50 million industry when I started. What's it now, Joey?
Well, pet food is over $30 billion a year.
So it's no wonder that the people that are investing money want to invest in the pet industry. But this isn't in an industry. This is this is a family. We're not talking about your car. This is not your Tesla. This is not your Lincoln. This is part of your family. This is your dog Lucy or my dogs Molly and Willie. So when it comes to pet food, and first of all, I'm going to talk a little bit later, but I'm broadcasting in a $1 million pet food safety lab as we talk. One of the few that are particularly in one location for the pet food company, correct?
Right.
So in other words, you test everything.
We do. We test the raw ingredients when they come in, and we test all throughout the procedure of making product. We actually, test the finished goods, and that's actually the big difference. And that's actually one of the reasons why I came back into the pet food industry for a couple of reasons. One, I didn't know what to feed my dogs that I trusted. There wasn't anything I trusted to feed them because I love my dogs. They're on the bed with me, and
No, I'm on the bed with them.
Yeah, well, I've got a lot. Yeah, they kind of spread out. And so we had the opportunity to buy the Breeder's Choice Pet Food plant. And what's really great is when we came in, I had a small little lab, and I made it into a big lab, which is where we are now. I mean, this is $1 million lab. Very proud of the lab, but the testing is so important. And to kind of give you an idea as why it's so important, I was talking to a couple of pet food manufacturers, right? And I was telling them about the lab and that I test the raw ingredients, I test the finished goods, I test this. They had the gall to actually say to me, you should really shut down that lab. I said, why would I shut down our lab? And they said this to me. They said, what if you do a 400,000 pound run and you find salmonella? You can't ship it. He said to me, the odds of dogs getting really sick with salmonella, very slim. You're better off selling it. And I said, you really ought to be out of the pet food industry. I mean, that is just so wrong. How could you even think of not testing your food because you don't want to find salmonella? And you know what's really interesting with that? If you actually look at the guys who have recalls year after year after year, and there's a few of them out there, those are the guys that aren't testing finished goods.
Bottom line is, I know maybe you can't see this. This is just a list in the last year or so of different pet foods that have been recalled. I mean, I get these every single day, and it drives me absolutely crazy knowing that perhaps some of these recalls would have been prevented if they just followed through. I know we're going to speak to Steve Lynette a little bit later, talk about how you test foods. If these foods were tested properly the way you test them here, half of these recalls never would have taken place.
Oh, no, of course.
All right, so we're back here broadcasting from Lucy Pet's manufacturing plant. I want to bring on Steve Lynette, who is a self-proclaimed nerd. I didn't make that up. He said it himself, but he's in charge of this laboratory. And I got to be honest with you. I am so impressed with this laboratory, really impressed with it. As we talked earlier with Joey, there's not a whole lot of pet food companies that have their own laboratory. I guess they just send theirs to a generic laboratory that tested. So Steve, from your perspective, and remember now, it's me, so no words with more than 10 or 12 letters. What is the importance and what makes this laboratory so critical in making sure that everything that goes out the door is amazingly good, safe, and perfect for people's pets?
Well, Warren, thank you so much for that question. There's really 3 types of testing this laboratory does. Number 1 is inbound testing for the raw materials. We make sure that everything that comes in this plant is correct.
So before they're even used, you've already tested
Oh,
it.
you betcha. You betcha. We do a very, very large number of tests, as well as just the common sense tests. We look at the color. We do the physical inspection of the containers. We want to make sure it's right before it ever comes into our manufacturing area. Number 2, we do the in-process testing for the manufacturing lines. So we'll take samples from the extrusion area and also from the filling lines. We'll bring it in here and we'll do the test. And then the third type of test we do is the finished product test. And this is an area that, as Joey has alluded to, that a lot of companies in this industry fall down on. They don't do that finished product test. They just simply assume that the product is safe because maybe they have done the upfront testing, but they don't know if they've added a contaminant or something else during the processing of the food.
So that product, they might test the ingredients when they come in, but they don't test the product when it goes out.
Well, that's right.
So the
That's
product
right.
can go out and not be safe. And what separates you guys from the rest of the group
Exactly.
is that you test the outgoing as well as the incoming.
Exactly. And the reason this lab was built was to do that really thorough testing to make sure it's right. Joey and the ownership team have made a massive investment in this organization. And they brought me over from another organization that I was a part of. And actually, I've worked for Joey for many, many years. And I know the kind of person he is. I know the passion that he has. And many of us on the staff have worked with him for a long time, and we share that passion. So I'm an amateur dog breeder. I'm also a scientist. So it marries my love of animals with my love of science. And by working with Joey, and I know the type of honest person of integrity that he is, I know that we will do the right thing. And that's what, in this industry, confidence, consumer confidence is so critical. So we got to make sure that the consumer knows what they're buying, and especially buying it from an organization that does the right thing.
So
and that's us.
do you think that the companies that are not testing the finished product, that's why there is such an amazing amount of recalls?
Oh yeah. You know what? Let me put my breeder hat on, and I'll say this: as a dog breeder, I want to make sure that the product that I feed my pups and my moms is correct. And if they're not doing the finished product testing, how would the company know? Well, it doesn't make any sense to me. So you have to do that finished product test to make sure it's right.
So why would the other companies not do it? Is it just a matter of finances? Is it a matter of they don't care? Or is it a matter that the owners of the company are probably having some steak dinner on the Upper West Side of Manhattan?
Well, I think, Warren, you just said it. A lot of the organizations in the pet food industry are owned by private equity firms, maybe very large companies that are looking to make a buck. I don't think they're owned by folks that are passionate about pet food. So I would say it's a little bit of that. You got to have the passion and the love of animals, and so that's why we do what we do.
So and so basically, as Joey, and you were saying this, is when the pet food industry started becoming more and more successful financially, it became an investment versus a passion for people.
That's what's happened.